Stay on the line here this time. All right, so you guys want to hear a funny story? I've been mic'd up for the last 30 minutes. I didn't realize that. And everybody on the live stream has been sitting there patiently waiting because we're supposed to start at 9, and they've been listening to me do vocal warm-ups over in the corner like a complete asshole. So thank you guys online for not chirping me too bad. I appreciate that. That's embarrassing. That's not how I wanted to start. I wanted to come out confident, you know? Okay. Super excited to do this. Super blessed to have everybody come out here. Some of you traveled a long way. We've got people that came from Montana, all the way from Ontario, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Williams Lake, and all over the show. So I'm just so blessed that you guys, and Calgary, so blessed that you guys felt it was worth your time, because I know how valuable your time is. And I'm going to play full out for you guys for the next day and a half to give you a very positive ROI on that time and that attention. We've got a really good lineup for you guys today. I'm really thrilled with the speakers, the quality of speakers we've been able to assemble. And we're going to take you on a bit of a journey, right? I'm going to start. I actually reordered the decks today because I thought this would be a better way into bringing Connor on stage. So I'm going to teach you about authority first, and then I'm going to bring Connor on stage to teach us how to actually do it with content professionally. After that, I'm going to come back on. I'm going to talk to you about building a 10x vision for your life. I'm really excited to share this stuff. This is all brand new content I haven't shared before, so really excited about that. And then we're going to have lunch. Okay, so everybody can kind of do their thing for lunch. I really encourage you to mingle, meet some new people. How was that upstairs? Did you guys get mingle around a little bit? That was awesome, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, there's so many awesome people that came out for this, that are in this room. So go to lunch with somebody new, somebody you don't know, get to know them, make a connect. There's lots of referrals that can come back and forth. This is a mastermind, talk biz, and let's figure out how we can all elevate together. We'll be back here 1 o'clock after lunch, and the lovely Kelsey is going to do us a wonderful trip through how to get into the flow state, so I'm really excited for that. And then I'm going to come back and teach you guys some advanced wealth building strategies that have been working and will continue to work for the next few years, and just sort of stretch your mind around how we can create multi-generational wealth together. And then after that, we're going to do a panel. Now, I was sneaky. I sent out a little poll to some people and asked you how this year was stacking up to other years. And some of you didn't catch what I was doing, and you actually responded. So I'm going to have a couple people come up and do a panel with me who are having their best year yet, because I know right now a lot of people are saying this market is fucking tough, and it is. But despite that, there are people who are having their best year yet. And so we want to bring them on, and we want to unpack what are the common traits, or what are the common things that they're doing or seeing, or how they're approaching the business right now that's giving them that success. So we're going to do that. And then after that, everybody's free to go out and hang out, party, do whatever it is that you want to do tonight. If you are from out of town and you need recommendations on what to do, that's why we have the group chat. And there's going to be people going out to dinner. There's going to be lots of stuff happening. So just be vocal in the group chat, and let's all have a great night. Tomorrow, we come back. I want you guys all to come on the hike. Especially if you're from out of town, you got to do this. The sunrise, I did it on Tuesday just to check. The sunrise is just as we get to the top of the hill. It's magic. It's the best view, even better than the perch view. And it's well worth the 30, 40 minutes. We'll get back down the mountain by about 7:25, which should give you enough time to do a quick refresh and then come back here for the half day. Now, don't feel like you have to get fancy. Come in athleisure wear tomorrow, if that's what makes it work for you. I would much prefer to have everybody come up on the hike and come here and just chill. After that, I'm going to come back on stage, teach you a little bit about how to build a profitable team, and then we're going to have Dan Martell, and we have an AI demo from Rob. So lots of really great stuff to bring you guys through. So hope you guys are in for it. Would love to ask your permission. Do I have your permission now to kind of stretch you a little bit, to get you to engage a bit with me, and kind of have you really engage in the content? If I ask a question, if I ask you guys to kind of write something down, or to stretch your mind when it comes to your vision, will you play full out for me? Can I have your permission to kind of push you a bit? Yeah? Awesome. Cool. So yeah, thank you also to my amazing team who put this together. By the way, we did this on 6 weeks' notice. How this all came to be actually is I promised my coaching clients we would do a mastermind. And one of my coaching clients in particular, Brad, kept bugging me week after week, have you booked a date? Have you booked a date? Have you booked a date? And I hadn't, and I was probably gonna just sleep on it, to be fair, because lots was going on this year. But our man Brad here just kept pushing me, and I finally said, okay, we're doing it. And I told my team we're doing it, but then we're like, well, when? It had to be in September. So here we are. So if this sucks, by all means, let Brad know.
But if it's good.
If it's good, send all your referrals to Brad in Winnipeg. Yeah, this is nerve-wracking, being in front of a group of your peers like this. And just so you know, nobody that's coming on the stage, save for Dan Martell at the end, is a professional speaker. We're all doing this because we want to add value and bring value. But if we look out and you guys are engaged, it gives tons of energy. If we look out and everybody's on their phone, we start shrinking, right? Because we're not professional speakers, so we're going to vibe with you guys. So if we're playing full out, give us your attention. We're going to put breaks in between every one of the sessions so you guys can go do a bio break and use the potty. I'm going to break a lot to drink a lot of water. It was funny this morning, I woke my 5-year-old daughter up. She's like, why do you have to leave so early, Dad? I said, well, I have to go and do this presentation. She goes, well, is it like show and tell? Well, yeah, it is kind of like show and tell. She goes, do you want me to come? I'm really good at it. And I might actually. I might call you in for day 2 if I need reinforcements. But yeah, it's super cute, having a little 5-year-old daughter at home. All right, so we're gonna get into it. We're gonna run this session. I don't know how long. This is the first time I've ever presented this content. I had to put 4 slide decks together and 4 different keynotes for this event. And so I have run through them a few times, but not at sort of length. So I think this will be about 45 minutes. Then we'll take a little break. Then we're gonna bring up Connor. Cool? All right, let's get into it. So the first session is about authority. Now, whatever success I've created in this business, if any, is not because I was the hardest worker in the industry. It's definitely not because I was the most likable guy in the industry. Definitely not that. What I think I did well, and what I've sort of codified, is I was able to curate and cultivate a decent amount of authority. And so what I was able to do is to get people to listen to me. I was able to attract clientele to me. And so I'm going to walk you through step by step how you would implement that in your own business, because it's really the difference between effortful success and effortless success. So this thing's going to work, right? There we go. Let's start with what is authority. So authority is the position or perception of expertise and trustworthiness that others acknowledge. Okay, that's a key piece. You can be an expert, you can be trustworthy, and most of you all are, but do others acknowledge that? It's in the acknowledgement of that expertise that authority lives. Does that make sense? So why does it even matter? The first thing authority leads to is trust. When your clients trust you, the game completely changes. At that stage, you're able to take and maintain the lead with your clients. This is where they follow your advice. This is efficiently working versus the very tiresome leading people around. Many of you are having to write way too many offers to get one to stick because your clients don't follow your lead. The offers that you do write don't stay together because the clients aren't trusting you when you tell them it's in their best interest to move forward. You're going into negotiations and you're missing out on multiple offers. These are all telltale signs of a missing piece of authority. When you don't have the client's trust, it's not because you're not trustworthy, it's because they are not acknowledging your authority yet. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Once you have authority, then you start to attract. This is when clients start to come to you versus you having to go and work with anybody that'll do business with you. You now get to attract your ideal clientele. And the best part is, as an authority, you now have the ability to command a premium pricing. There's price elasticity in our business, despite the fact that most of us all offer the same cooperating fee. We're all free to charge and ask for whatever it is that we want with our clients on the buy side and on the sell side. And it's a hell of a lot easier to ask for a premium when you are the acknowledged authority in the space. So here's the power of it. I don't know, has anybody read the book Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini?
Yeah.
Awesome book. I read this like 15 years ago. I was amazed at the level to which people will defer to a symbol of authority. So the example in the book is there was like career nurses that had been in the business for 20 years. They ran an experiment where they had a man in a white lab coat come in. They had never seen him before. He came into the hospital floor and he asked the nurse to deliver a lethal dose of a medicine to a patient. And they did it to a number of nurses, and they found at an overwhelming percentage of the time, the nurses blindly did it. To a man they had never seen before, he did not offer any credentials. These are nurses that absolutely knew that this level of dosage would kill. But they blindly followed because they saw a symbol of authority. We're hardwired evolutionarily to look for cues of authority and to defer our decision making. Not everyone, but an overwhelming majority. The stronger your perceived authority, the more likely people are to follow your advice. The more likely they are to follow your lead, okay? And it creates confidence. When somebody hires an authority in a space, they get a transfer of that confidence. Because they have you, they are now confident in their decision making. It gives them confidence to proceed. So that's the power of authority. And so we want to figure out how can we raise our perceived and acknowledged authority in the marketplace. So I want to ask you to consider where you are on this continuum at the moment. Are you in the first quartile, where you have little to no influence, little trust? Not that you are not trustworthy, again, just nobody's really trusting your word for it because you do not have the perceived authority. If you're in that space, this is where you're having to put in far more effort than is needed to get a deal over the goal line. The next stage is you have some credibility, particularly with your peers, but very limited outside recognition. A lot of people live in this space. Your peers and your clients, they understand that you have their best intentions, they understand you know your stuff, but there's nothing outside of that. 51 to 75 is where most people cap out, okay? This is where you're the trusted advisor within your network, okay? Clients and even your friends, they trust you. If you say it, they believe it. But outside of that, there's nothing. There's that, and outside of that is where the attraction takes place. So it's in the 76 to 100 that I'm gonna push you guys to try to get there so that you start to attract your ideal clientele, okay? When others now they have deference to you, to your opinion. They defer their opinion and they defer their decision making to your way of thinking. Does that make sense? Where's my clicker? Come on. All right. So we want to find our pathway to this authority. Now, we cannot be all things to everyone, but we can be everything to a very narrow group of people. And that is why we want to find a niche. Now, there's many niches that you can pick. The one that I chose in my career was real estate investment. It was also a different time. Real estate investment and investors, it was a great time to be an investor in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was an awesome time to be an investor. And so I built a name for myself in a time where it made sense. Right now, this may not be the niche of choice. If I was just starting out today, I probably wouldn't choose investment real estate today because it's hard to make these properties cash flow, et cetera. Less people are involved in these networks like RAIN and OREG and all these other networks where people are getting together to talk about real estate investing. It's a little out of style at the moment based on the economics. But there's many, many niches that you can have. You could be a luxury specialist. You can be a pre-construction sales specialist. You can be assisted living specialist. You can be a first-time buyer specialist. There's apartment buildings. There's a limitless number of specialties and niches that you can get into. Pick something you're passionate about. Pick something that you actually like. For me, real estate investing was something I was doing. I was passionate about it, so it was a no-brainer for me to get into that. What do you do well? What do you already do well? You already have the subject knowledge, right? Where can you add the most value? Where do your skills bring the most value to the marketplace? And then lastly, and probably most importantly, where is there the demand and the addressable market? Sorry about the feedback on my shirt. Is that really distracting? No. All right. Make sure there's the demand and there's a decent enough market. If you're trying to get into like I had someone come to me and say, I want to be a specialist in passive home design. Cool specialty, but like who's buying passive homes? How many of those a year trade hands? So not a great one. He was an expert in it. He was passionate about it. Not enough addressable market to make a go of it. So wouldn't be the niche I'd pick. Make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, if we're going to create authority, there's 4 pillars to this. Okay? Of course you guys roll in late. Of course you do. Grab a seat. All good. Coming in looking like Teresa Mendoza in an all-white suit. You know I'm going to chirp you if you show up late. All right. All right. So there's 4 pillars to this. The first, of course, is expertise. It is the permission to play. You have to first be an expert on the subject matter. You have to know your shit. There's no bother trying to get to the authority space unless you're willing to do the work to become an expert in that niche. Bar none. You have to. Which requires you to be educated. It requires you to stay educated. You got to stay up on the stuff that's coming inside your niche. Once we clear that, once you've consumed the content, you've created the expertise, then the next step is you have to share it. And this is where you become a thought leader in that space. So it's not enough to just know it, you have to be willing to share it. And that's where, when we're going to have Connor come up, he's going to teach you how to actually do that in a way where you have reach. Sharing your expertise and your insights and your opinions, your bold predictions, all of those things is how you create authority. And you do this by way of blogs, videos, the written word. There's a million different ways to share that authority. And I've tried all of them. I've written for Castanet. I've written for the Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine. I've been on podcasts. I've been on stages. There's lots of different ways to create the authority, but you have to have a message, and then you have to be willing to share that. And for some of you, that's going to be a little bit of a scary proposition. I will tell you, it is scary to be up here, but it gets less scary the more you do it. The first video you do is going to be scary. You're going to be judgmental of your hair. It gets less scary as you do it, I promise. I'm going to show you guys a couple examples of some really old videos with really bad hair, but they performed really well. Yes, sir. The next is a curated and thoughtful image that you've created, but it has to be an authentic one. You can't pose, you can't be someone you're not. It has to be your authentic image, but you want to be thoughtful about how you present it, particularly if the goal is to become an authority. Okay? And I'm going to teach you guys a few things about that today as well. And then lastly, and this is what brings it all home, is the social proof aspect of it. What are other people saying about you? It's not enough to just promise that you're an expert. If others say it, it now becomes true. Okay? And so we're going to try to leverage testimonials. We're going to leverage case studies. We're going to get reviews online on various different sites. There's lots of ways to do it. There's endorsements from celebrities. There's your network. There's a number of different things that you can do to create social proof. Your statistics and how they stack up to the competitors. It's all right, buddy. Grab your phone. All right. Let's start with pillar 1. So pillar 1 is expertise. It's the foundation of authority, as I said. And the goal is to become the go-to person in your niche or in your market for the subject matter. That means you have to master the market data. You have to be looking at the data. You have to understand and how to process it and how to explain the data. You have to focus on continuous education. This is going to things. Like, by the way, kudos to all of you for coming and continuing your education. I wish I could give you credits for this towards your continued ed, but I didn't think that one. So to master the subject matter, there's a couple things we've got to do. We've got to stay on top of the data, the market trends, all that. But you also have to go beyond that and understand the context that it lives in, the macroeconomic side of it. So for me, in investment real estate, understanding how the macroeconomy worked was what enabled me to take it down to the ground and say, okay, well, and here in Kelowna, based on this trend, here's what you can expect. And then get the designations. Real estate investment advisor was the designation that I got. The certifications you can get in commercial real estate, you can get in luxury real estate, you can get all kinds of different certifications. These certifications lend themselves to your credibility. Interesting stat, I learned this at a mastermind that I was at about a year ago. Right now, the average consumer is spending 24 minutes a day while they're going through the process of buying or selling, researching, studying, diving into all of YouTube videos, reading the news, everything. They are students of it, and they are well equipped. Would you guys agree that your clients are coming to you with a lot more opinions and a lot more facts and figures these days than they were 10 years ago? Yes. So the question I have for you then is, are you out studying the clientele? Are you putting 30 minutes a day in to stay on top of what's going on? And it's easy. You can do it with subscriptions to people's YouTube channels. You can subscribe to people's blogs. You can subscribe to journals. But you have to be putting in the time to stay on top of it so that when people come to you with an opinion and say, I don't think we should buy right now, your authority and your study is stronger. Then they will defer their thinking to you. Make sense? You have to have the answer. The best way to build credibility, though, is by eating your own cooking. Excuse me. Good thing we didn't rip our pants there. What do I mean by eat your own cooking? You've got to buy your own product. Get high on your own supply. You've got to have real estate. You've got to be in real estate, buying it, fixing it, renting it. You got to have the war stories. You got to have the skinned knees and the scars so you can speak to it, right? An expert who doesn't walk their own walk falls a little flat. Would you agree? So we have to be willing to be brave enough to take some of the real estate on ourselves. And I'm going to do a whole session on partnerships. So if you're missing one of the pieces to being able to acquire real estate, I'll show you how to bridge that gap later. What's cool about this, and what really worked for me, is because I was so active buying, renting, I was in the game, I was able to always have a story or always have a reno. I always knew the cost of things. I always knew exactly where things were at with tenant sentiment, all the different things at that time because I was in it. I was practicing what I preached. So I always had great stories, and stories sell. That's the transfer of your certainty, that conviction. That's what sells. When you tell a story, it is the most impactful and the most influential thing you can do. And of course, clients were only going to trust professionals who have firsthand experience in the field. All right, switching gears now. Pillar number 2 is thought leadership. The goal with this is to position ourselves as the authority, okay? The goal is to take your message and get leverage on that message via media, okay? So this is where what Connor's going to share is going to be awesome because he's going to show you how to get as much reach as you possibly can with your message. And I think you want to get comfortable with sharing bold predictions and take a stand for something. We obviously don't want to alienate everybody, so we don't go all in on one or the other, and so we straddle the line and we really stand for nothing, and therefore we don't attract our tribe. It's okay to be a little bit polarizing. I probably wouldn't go all in on politics, but you can be a little bit polarizing. You can take a stand. If you don't like the federal government's new rule they just rolled out and you think it's going to have the inverse effect that they're expecting, take a stand and say it. You will attract your people. I can't tell you how much business I do because people understand where I stand on things and they come to me because they're in alignment with that. There's probably people who go and work with someone else because they do believe in the, let's say, the liberal agenda, for example. And that's cool too. But if I didn't stand for anything, I probably still wouldn't have done business with that other person, and I would have absolutely missed the opportunity to do business with the one that did align with me. Does that communicate? Good. So long-form platforms, I mean, there are so many, okay? And I've tried them all. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to pick a medium that you are comfortable with, right? So a YouTube channel is probably going to give you an amazing ROI. The nice thing about YouTube, it's there forever, and these videos, they appreciate over time, versus short form, which is somewhat of a here today, gone tomorrow. LinkedIn, really, really undervalued attention on LinkedIn right now, especially if you're dealing with other professionals, and a lot of your clientele is on there, especially the baby boomers and beyond, the C-suite people. If you put out thought leadership content on LinkedIn, you will do business from it. Facebook Lives, your video blog, I had a lot of traction with a video blog. I can't believe I stopped doing it, actually. Webinars are great. First-time homebuyer webinar, downsizers webinars, seller webinars, all of these things we've done, and we've made great ROI on that time and on that investment. Webinars are an amazing way you can bring people together. And think about it, like if you could get 80 people on a virtual webinar, it has essentially the same amount of influence as what I've done here, and this was a big lift to put your butts in these seats. You can get people onto a webinar much easier. Much easier. And you can influence just the same. Speaking, of course, you can do free courses. The written word, okay? The word author is the root word of authority. If you're willing to write, and thank God for ChatGPT, you can write a lot more and a lot faster now. But you should have your own thoughts and your own ideas in there and have ChatGPT flesh it out. A blog, a column. I write for Castanet. That real estate investment column that I do on Castanet has brought me so much business. If you can get in a local publication and have a column, even if you're just putting something out monthly or even quarterly, it's well worth your time. The written word brings people to you. I had a client, his name's Barrett. He's an investor in my fund now. He was living in Ontario, and he had just sold his dental practice, and he was looking for a retirement out here in Kelowna. He came here, he read an article that I put in the Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine. He liked what he read, he called me. He flew out, and he said, what should I buy? I showed him one property. This is also common with me because it's kind of a joke around the office that I only ever show people one house, or when I sold, that was it. But I would curate it, and because I had authority, they would defer to my thought process, and I knew what was best for them, and so it was a very efficient process. So with Barrett, I showed him one property, a fourplex. He paid cash for the fourplex, and then he decided, I don't really like being a landlord, what else can we do? I said, well, I'm starting a fund. Do you want to invest in that? He said, sounds good. I'll do whatever. He put his entire nest egg with me, the entirety of it. His whole retirement is resting upon what I do or do not do with that money inside of our limited partnership. He met me one time before he decided to make that decision. The written word, that is how powerful the written word is. He had watched a few YouTube videos, and he had read that article, and he goes, this guy's the expert. He's the authority on this subject matter. I'm going to hitch my wagon to him. I will defer my decision-making to him, and he will make sure I'm good in retirement. And we've made good by it. That's been 8 years almost, and he's makes 6 figures a year off me and laughs all the time. He's like, I should be your personal assistant just to protect my investment. All right. Once you have long form, you can take that and you can chop it up into short form, okay? So always starting with long form. Long form video, the transcripts can become your written word as well. So that's super efficient. That's what I do now is I start with long form video, I get it transcribed, I take the transcription, I feed it to ChatGPT, I say, make this sound pretty, and that's what happens. And then it gets chopped up into little pieces. Media and press is huge. So there's a few different ways you can go about press. First, you can put out a press release. So if there's something newsworthy, you can put out a press release and send it to local reporters. Or you can hire a publicist for $1,000. That's what I did. Hire a publicist. They'll make a press release for you. If you're opening a new store, or you're opening an office, or you're launching a new product, or you've got something newsworthy, a press release is huge. You get enormous, enormous reach. You can also buy the same press. I do this with sponsored articles on Castanet all the time. Castanet, for the folks that are out of town, is our local news, our news website. You can do a sponsored article that shows up just like a proper article, a proper editorial, and it's about $1,200, and you get 100,000 views on it, and you are now positioned as the authority. Sponsored articles have the same influence, the same effect as an organic, natural article. People don't care that it's paid. It's the same effect that having a YouTube video. A YouTube video, people look at it as if you are like a TV person. They talk to you differently. They have an upward view of you because they've seen you on TV. It's exactly like if you have a TV commercial, people start thinking you're like a local celebrity. YouTube does the exact same thing. You don't need to spend the money on a TV commercial. You can get that exact deference and upward view from your clients from that. So I was going to print out workbooks for everybody. Then we realized it was 5,000 pages of printing and would actually break our machine. So we emailed it all out to you. There's a workbook. There's about 30 pages of different content ideas, many of which are in the thought leadership and authority space. So just to kind of get your brain going on it. You can use ChatGPT to flesh out tons more. So hopefully you guys all got that email with the PDF. Yeah? Cool.
Who did it come from?
Good question. Who did it come from?
From the Eventbrite.
Would it come through the Eventbrite? Thanks. We talk a lot about brand in this business, right? Everyone's talking about, okay, you got to get your branding down. You got to build your brand. It's pretty tough to have a brand in terms of something that's going to attract just based on how just your presence alone and just how slick your logo is and how good your tagline is and how amazing your website is. That's not where it comes from. Your brand is your authority. That is what it is in real estate in our professional industry. Your authority is your brand. Your personal brand is the level of authority you've created by the content you put out consistently. And so you have to be consistent with it in some way, shape, or form. Stay visible through social media and continue to put this stuff out so that people do not forget you. So here's an example of a video I did 10 years ago. It didn't perform exceptionally well. You can see it has 226 views. I got a shitty haircut. I'm sitting in my shitty little office. I got a shitty look on my face. This video I can attribute 4 different deals to. Properly pricing your home. Right? I'm just starting to be the authority on the general topic of real estate here with this. I share this with you because your first videos are going to suck, no question. That is just it. You have to get out of your own way. You're not going to look back and like your previous videos. Somebody said something really interesting to me the other day. They said, if you don't look back on the videos you did 5 years ago and cringe, you're not growing fast enough. If you still think that's good 5 years later, you didn't grow. I hate all of my content from like 6 months ago. So you got to get over it. And by the way, 226 people listening to you talk on a subject matter is pretty awesome. We get caught up in like vanity metrics, like it didn't go viral, we didn't get thousands of people. There's 80 of you or 85 of you here. 226 on that shitty video. That video has more influence. The other cool thing about delivering content is you get the opportunity to deliver value in advance of asking for anything, okay? Again, in that book, Influence, it talks about the rule of reciprocity. The rule of reciprocity suggests that if you bring value to someone in advance, they are somehow indebted to you and they will more likely be willing to do something in exchange for that, which is to do business with you. And that is how it works. When you constantly put out valuable content to the world, you attract your tribe. They come to you, and it's because they feel a little bit like, this person's been helping me get my head around this subject matter for years. And I can tell you, all the time, people would say to me, at our first consult, they would say, I've been watching your videos for 3 years. Wow, cool, thank you. And they say, now I'm finally ready to do it. There was no one else that I would call. They felt indebted to me. They felt like I had done something for them that they had to repay with business. That's a cool thing. And you can do it at scale, right? When you do things for people on a one-to-one basis, it's not scalable. It's hard. You would be pretty busy delivering gifts to everybody all the time to try to invoke reciprocity. With content, you deliver it at scale. And as I said before, it gives you a new frame with clients. I would have clients come into my office after watching YouTube videos and they would say, AJ, listen, I don't know if I'm a big enough client for you. I don't know if this would be worth your time, but would it be okay or would it be all right if I did some business with you or if I bought a duplex through you? I know it's probably not a big piece of business for you, but could I? Fuck yeah, you can. Of course. But they have this upward view, right? They have this view of you like, oh, I don't know if I'm worthy of it because they're watching you on this tube. It's a really, really powerful piece. All right, let's talk about how to kind of curate and cultivate a very professional, authoritative image, okay? And to be clear, I'm not asking you to not be you. Be you. Be the authentic version of you, warts and all. People don't expect perfection. I've certainly never delivered anything close to perfect in any of my content. Share your successes. Share your clients' successes. People want to hear about other people's success and how you got them there. The frame is be the guide. Don't be the hero, be the guide. There's a great book by Donald Miller called Story Brand where he talks about most professionals get it wrong. Most professionals want to be the hero. So the website is a hero page. The copywriting is all about them. Be the guide. Be about how you guide people safely to what they want. That's where the power is.
Sorry, AJ, what was it book called?
Story Brand by Don Miller. Thanks. All right, so the image of authority kind of breaks down. Sorry, there's a lot of text on this slide. Number one, dress for success. Tailored suits. Our industry, there's a spectrum. For people who want to dress in athleisure wear just like their clients, to chinos and golf shirts, to people who are wearing three-piece suits. You don't have to go all the way to the three-piece suit, but I highly recommend a blazer. I can tell you that a blazer in our business is akin to the white lab coat that I referred to in the first slide. When people see you in a blazer, you look sharp, by the way. When people see you in a blazer, they go, okay, there's some authority here, right? So dress a cut above where your clients are. That's how you get deference. This will be controversial. Some people think having a flashy watch or having a nice timepiece is a flex or it's arrogant. It's a signal for some people, right? A watch doesn't just communicate the time, it communicates to others that my time is valuable. It's a subtle thing, but having a nice watch helps. It just does. The same thing with your car. Again, I remember having conversations with you back in the day, right? Adam, he was in medical sales, and he couldn't drive a nicer car than the docs he served, even though he was making more money than most of the docs at the time, but he had to play it cool. I, on the other hand, was not playing it cool. I bought an Aston Martin. I was 25, driving around in an Aston Martin, and lots of people were like, oh man, you are gonna repel so much business with that. And maybe, I would never know, because nobody that didn't do business with me would call me to tell me, hey, I bypassed your listing because you're a douche with a car. But I do know for sure that there was lots of people who both joined my real estate company because they thought, well, he's obviously got some level of success, he knows what he's talking about. It was a signal to them that I had some authority. I worked with developers who called me because of that. So I know it works. What are you laughing about?
So you don't want the fat personal trainer.
Thank you. I love that line. You kind of have one though. All right. Your home office, the same thing. Curate an experience for people when they look. Like, I haven't done a great job of this, but at least there's books behind me. When you look, when I'm at my home office, you can see what I've read. You can see a couple of awards. You can see my family. It's a curated experience so people know what I stand for and what I know, right? Have the background of your Zoom calls represent authority. Curate that. The same thing with physical offices. If you can bring people into a space that's impressive, again, your authority increases. So it's worthwhile having a good physical office. I know there's lots of people who are at cloud-based brokerages. That's cool. Just have a cool place to do business. Could be a place like this, co-working space, where you can bring people in that communicates authority. And lastly is your physical fitness. Again, a controversial topic, but there's a reason why the only two coaches that I have are in better shape than me. Dan Martell and John Sheplak. They're both beasts. I defer to them because they're fucking jacked and smart. And I want to be that, right? And so people will defer to people who are in great shape. That's just the way it works. It's bioevolutionarily ingrained in us to do that. In the same book, we talk about how height is a factor. So I was fucked from day one, we knew that. We can overcome it in other ways, which I'll share with you. But there's a stat, I don't know exactly what it is, but in North America, something like 40% of CEOs of big companies are over 6'3", where there's less than 1% of the actual, or 3% of the population is over 6'3". So it's massive disparity. So height obviously matters, because probably as kids we were on the playground and the big kid was the one that was in charge. And so we constantly just defer to the big kid. Now we can't change our height. Sorry, I wish we could, tried. There's a whole bunch of people on Instagram trying to target me with shoes with lifts in them. I haven't taken the plunge yet. But we can do some other things. We can get in great shape, okay? Dan Martell's line is that the bicep vein is the McLaren of the body in terms of a signal. When you're sitting across from somebody who's in good shape, it communicates something, right? Jack, you're flexing right now. You're like, of course it does. But is it not true that when people see you, there's a little bit of deference there? They see you, they sit across from you, they go, okay, well, this guy at least keeps the promises that he makes to himself. He's got a lot of discipline, obviously, if he can show up to the gym every day, right? There's a power in that, okay? Past that, your posture, your body language, having your shoulders back, squaring to the audience, these things matter. Your posture and how you communicate, how you show up in the world either communicates authority or it's harming your authority, right? Same thing with eye contact, same thing with slouching. All those things are diminishing your authority. If you can't hold eye contact with somebody and you break away, that is a sign of weakness or of low status. All right. And then the last and fourth pillar, and this is what brings it all home, is you gotta go all in on the social proof of your authority, okay? Get a pile of reviews. Try to get your Google My Business account as at least in the top 3, so you're on the site. Especially as we move towards AI search. AI search is gonna defer to reputation management to serve you up what it is that you want. If you ask Alexa, who's the best real estate agent in my area, it will defer to Yelp. If you ask a Google Home device, who is the best real estate agent in my area, it'll defer to, you guessed it, Google My Business, right? And so knowing these things, it will pay handsomely to get a Google My Business in the top 3, without a doubt. Now, Again, it's not what we say about ourselves, it's what others say about us. A video testimonial of your best clients is your best weapon. You can put them on your YouTube channel. You can send them to your clients in advance of an appointment. You can do a lot with a video testimony. You can leverage the hell out of it. And then creating case studies that you can use in your presentations, case studies that you can make video content around. Case studies are powerful. If you took a property to market and you did a whole bunch of advice to get somebody's property in shape, they followed your advice, you did a number of great things with marketing it, then it goes to market, you negotiated masterfully, got them an amazing result. Tell the story in a case study. We tell these stories now on the radio through Phil Johnson. Huge power in that. And stats. If you can demonstrate that your negotiating outperforms the industry average, if you can demonstrate that your properties sell faster and for more money than what typical homes, these are real stats. Communicate them, make content about them, put them in your presentations. It is always proof over promises. Every asshole has a promise. It comes down to the proof. Okay, the other thing, and here's some rapid fire tips. Having a proven process, okay? Most real estate agents do not have a process. They allow the client to lead the process. The clients are running the show, okay? You've got to have a linear process that you bring people through. Otherwise, they feel like, okay, I guess I'm leading the dance here. And by the way, that's what they're used to. Most realtors are used to running the shit out of their agents. So would we agree with that? So having a proven system, having a way, this is how we do it here. Just like you go to Disneyland, you get in line. There's a way that we do it. Similarly, having a proven process adds to the trust. It is an absolute signal of your expertise. You got to grab the lead, you got to maintain the lead, and you got to have a lead worth following. This is what most of the agents in our industry do. They just get led around by their clients. Clients just drag them around. Oh my God, I'm exhausted. I've looked at 30 homes. Okay? They don't have a proven process. They don't have any authority, and they're just hoping that their clients trip and fall over and stumble into a house that they like and buy it. It's a bullshit way to do business. So have a lead worth following. How do you do that? Well, how it works in practice, how this comes to the ground is you have to ask powerful questions. Really great questions is what a world-class consultant has. Asking the right questions allows you to appear insightful. It allows you to appear empathetic. It allows you to get in touch with the client's true motivations. And it allows them to sit back and relax. Okay, this person actually gets me. This person understands what I'm going through. This person can lead me through. They have confidence and trust in you based on the quality of questions that you ask. So I would invite you to brainstorm a handful of questions and use them at every meeting before you start. Before you pitch anything, run through a series of questions. And if you don't want to brainstorm, there's a video on YouTube called the 7 Questions to Ask Before Every Meeting, if you want to totally turn your brain off. But this is a very important step. Building your network is a huge piece. You don't need celebrity endorsements to do it. It helps, but you don't need it. Who you associate with matters. Way too much text on this slide. I won't do that to you again. My bad. But who you congregate with, the other real estate agents in your area, are they authoritative? The mortgage brokers, the contractors you work with, the lawyers that you work with, the accountants that you work with, your network, are these the authority in your field, or are they just young people kind of at the beginning of their career that you like? If you rub shoulders with the authorities, there's a halo effect to that. That network effect starts to happen. They start to refer you, people see you in proximity to other authorities, and they trust it. When you're communicating with people, words matter. Words matter a lot. And there are power words that build trust, and there are weak words that erode trust. In NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there are things called embedded commands, okay? And you can weave them into your process. So when you say something like, when you decide to work with me and my company, you can be confident that we're going to expose your home and get you the absolute most amount of money. There's a couple of things that you've embedded in there. When you decide, right? That's an embedded command. It has a power. There's massive influence in putting embedded commands in the way that you communicate. Things like with a buyer. Imagine how it will feel when you're on your patio 6 months from now, having a beer, grilling some steaks, and looking out at the kids playing in the backyard. Imagine how it feels is an embedded command. It forces people to actually imagine. It moves people. In this market, do we have to handle a few more objections than normal? So the key, how an authority responds to a crisis or to an objection is very different than how an amateur would. Amateurs fly off the handles. They're reactive. They get excited. They are not the cool cucumber. They're not the calmest person in the room. They're worried that their $15,000 commission is about to go up in smoke, and they get tight and anxious about it. You can't act like that. You have to have total composure. You have to be the coolest, calmest person in the room. Now, there's a little formula for it. If you're dealing with it and you need a little minute to catch your breath and to think it through, there's a formula called the feel, felt, found formula when you're overcoming an objection. So someone says something that they object to, you say, listen, I totally understand how you feel. And you might be surprised, but I've actually dealt with a lot of clients lately that felt exactly the same way. In going through the process with a number of these folks and getting them safely to where they wanted to go, what we found is, and then you share it. Okay? It's a feel, felt, found. It gives you a minute when you can take the time to say, hey, I get it. You're not alone. But here's what I've found from a place of authority. That's how you move people across to where you want them to go. That's how you influence them. You first have to show them that you understand. During times of crisis, there are three things you need to know. We're in a crisis. People are fear. Would we agree there's more fear in the market than there has been in a very long time? Yes? So it's three things. Communicate often. You can't leave people in the dark. Real estate agents are criminals at this. We often leave people in the dark way too long, and they come up with their own story. You got to communicate often, over-communicate. Even if there's nothing to share, call them and tell them that. Hey, I was just thinking about you. I want to let you know everything I can do is being done. Communicate empathy. People want to know that you understand their fears and emotions. Hey, I get it right now. There's a lot of fear in the market. People are worried their house price is going down. I totally understand. You might be fearful of that, and that might be creating some anxiety for you and your family. I get it. Communicate that you get it. Communicate that you understand that. And then lastly, when you've done that, communicate competency. Okay? This is the most important piece. The competency piece is how you influence, how you move them to what they need to do. Just like when you're flying and you go through a period of turbulence, and you're going, holy shit, like, are we going down? And then all of a sudden the captain comes on. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just gone through an area of turbulence. I understand that can be a little startling. I want to let you know we're going to lower the plane to 30,000 feet, and we're going to have you guys safely in Dallas in no time. Okay, we can calm down now. He's got a plan. We're lowering the plane. We're going to lower the plane. We're going to land safely where we need to go. It's the same thing when you sit down asking for a price reduction. You got to acknowledge, hey, I know this isn't how you thought it would go. I know that this is not a great time to be a seller right now, but here's what we're going to do, and we're going to get you where you want to go. A competent, clear plan is what people need.
Jay,
Yes, ma'am.
how often are you communicating with your sellers right now in this market? Do you have a set time? Like, is it every second day set, or is it every day? Is it every third day, or does it just?
So, I mean, you're going to have, if you have showings, you're going to have a more regular cadence because you're going to be doing the, sharing the feedback. However, weekly, there should be a full debrief. Let's talk about the showings that happened. Let's talk about things that may be sold in the market, et cetera. It should, at the very least, a weekly call, and you set that expectation. The best cadence is the one your client wants, by the way. So when you sit down with your clients in the beginning and say, listen, I have clients that span from people who want to hear from me every day to people who don't want to hear from me unless I got an offer in my hand. And I have some folks who are really happy with like a weekly digest of what's going on. Where would you guys fall on that? There's a thing called recency bias as well. So the last thing you suggest is the thing that they'll take, especially if it's in the middle. So if you like to do weekly calls, just bracket it with two things that seem unreasonable and use recency bias to put them on the once a week that you want. Okay? All right, let's talk about the X factor. I like this part of it. So, we've built authority now. That's not enough to move people alone. You need to also have conviction. So conviction is something that you are like, you believe in your heart. You believe, you're excited about it, and you could transfer that excitement, that conviction. That's where your authority and that conviction is like the rocket fuel that moves people to do what they should do. So we want to combine that deep level of expertise. We want to combine that curated authority we've created with a conviction that you believe in something wholeheartedly, okay? Best way to demonstrate your conviction is to walk the walk, as we were talking about before. But if you can passionately talk about something, that conviction comes through. So the equation is authority multiplied by conviction equals influence, okay? Authority alone is not enough, okay? It'll get you almost all the way there, but you also have to be fired up on something. You have to believe. It's not right for everybody to buy right now, would we agree? But it might be right for somebody who is a move-up buyer if you were pretty excited about the opportunity for somebody who was selling a townhome that barely came down and buying something that was at $2 million is now at 1.5, I'm excited about that opportunity for somebody if they're willing to do it. That's a great trade for them. And so that conviction in that is how you move them. Even though they're scared of the interest rates, they're scared of the market coming down, it's a great trade for them. So you got to be believing that. You have to be convicted in that. Okay? So it's not enough. The more certain you are on a subject matter, the more that conviction comes through. So you have to get certain. So how do you get that? How do we get to a level of certainty? Well, firstly, we have to acknowledge that conviction without authority will fall flat. So you can't just go right to excitement. Unfortunately, you cannot skip the first half of this keynote and not create the authority. Because if you just go right to excitement and you don't have the cred to back it up, you're just some asshole with an opinion. Nobody cares, right? Nobody's going to listen unless you have the authority. Anything you're excited about, other people get excited about. The example of this in practice is if I see a development, even though I haven't sold a house in 5 years, if I see a real estate development that I'm fired up about and I have a couple bullets in my mind why I think it's a good deal, if I send that out to my past clients and say, this is a good opportunity, guess what? Many of them will take action. Because A, I'm convicted in something, but B, I did the work to have the authority. So they listen, and I'm fired up, boom. You can do 5, 6, 7 deals in one shot with a good email when you have both. So to cultivate that, there's a few things you can do. So repetition helps. The same dialogues, practicing the dialogues, the feel, felt, found, the sound bites that you're hearing when you explain it to a client and you're teaching, like get out of your comfort zone and actually teach your clients something. Say the same thing over and over again. That repetition ingrains and you become more and more convicted in what you're saying because you've said it and it's landed. It's the repetition that creates that conviction. After that, you got to test your beliefs. So it's not enough to just get an opinion and feel strong about it. You have to test it. You have to hear the other side of the story. You have to talk to the person who thinks the other thing and ask them why. I'm going to take this off. I'm tired of hearing that scratch. All right.
You're jacked.
Thanks, buddy. All right. So we want to test the conviction by talking to the other side of the argument. We want to debate it and see if what we're saying actually withstands scrutiny. Does what we say hold water when we debate it in public with other people? If it doesn't, that's okay. That's right. We'll actually become more convicted by having tested it and reshaping the argument around what became true after we tested it. You've got to learn from your failures. You've got to refine your approach. Having conviction doesn't mean you're going to be right 100% of the time. An example, in 2012, I was very convicted in the idea that the market was going to recover and recover swiftly. We had just come through about a 3-4 year downturn. I'm like, it's time to get back on the gas. I started writing columns for Castanet about how it's time to go. And I was even encouraging people to lever up on their house. Let's go, let's buy some real estate. It's go time. I took a ton of heat for this. There was a guy by the name of Garth Turner who wrote a blog about me, went out to 300,000 people, and everyone's like, look at this asshole. Of course he thinks you should lever up your biggest investment to go buy more of the thing he sells. And I got tons of heat from it. But it was the right advice. And anybody who followed me down that track made a ton of money, myself included. I was walking the walk. I said, I'm going to go buy a shit ton of real estate right now. And I did very well on it, and the clients that listened did well. My authority, my conviction moved them to make the right decision for them. 2018, I had the belief that the market was going to turn downward. I was very convicted in that. I started putting out content saying the party's over, kids, which I knew was going to cost me sales, but also by being honest and taking a stand about that, I actually gained business from it. Now, what I didn't call correctly was the COVID thing. When COVID happened, I was very defensive, probably because I was talking to my brother too much. That's your bad. I got really defensive and I did not see, I don't think anybody really did if they're honest, but I didn't see us going through this bonanza for 2 years. So I told a lot of people to get the hell out. That wasn't the great advice. I sold a bunch of my shit too in 2018 or 2019. I wish I would have held it. Hindsight's 2020. You're not going to be right all the time. I haven't lost my authority because I was wrong there. I've been right way more than I've been wrong, and I'm humble enough to say I got that one wrong, guys. I'm sorry, I got that one wrong. And by the way, if I ever see this again, I will know it. If I ever see another pandemic, and I'll understand how the supply strain happens. I'll understand that if nobody lists their house for 6 months, it's going to create some pent-up demand. I will understand those dynamics next time. I've learned from it. It's okay to be wrong. You have to make a bold prediction, or no one will listen to you. So we're going to bring it home, this idea of conviction for you guys, a little mental exercise. We're going to do a little Back to the Future here. For those of you that are too young to know what that is a DeLorean. That is the future mobile from Back to the Future. Okay, so imagine for a second that you have this beautiful device and you can try time travel. You now have the opportunity to go back in time, 15 years, 20 years, and visit yourself with all of the knowledge that you now have about what has taken place over the last little while. You know what happened in Bitcoin, you know who won all the elections, you know when the real estate popped off, you know when it dropped off, you know it all. And you get to go back and you get to share that with yourself. The only caveat is you will not recognize you now. You will appear as just a regular, random human being, and so that person will be naturally skeptical. They will not believe you. You're from the future. Sure, you're a pal. You now have to convince you to make some good decisions about something that you have 100 out of 100 certainty on it happening. How would you communicate? Would you shake the shit out of yourself? How would you communicate with yourself? What level of conviction would you try to transfer to yourself if you knew for certain it was the right thing for yourself to do? How would you talk to that person? How bold would you be in your language? How would you approach it? I would say to you, you probably can never get to 100% certainty on the things that you know, but you're getting a lot closer to that than how you're currently playing it with your clients. A lot closer. So that's the stretch. All right, there is a 12-month action plan in your PDF that we sent. It talks you through month by month what I would do to sort of engineer my own authority if I was starting back at zero. It's 12 months of it. It's in your workbook. Take it, and I hope you guys run with it. I really do. And then regularly reflect on your authority, on your score. Where do I feel like I'm at? Are people listening to me? Are other people now seeking my advice? Look and see where you are. Just constantly reflect on where you think you are and for ways that you can improve. Cool. I think that's it. How long did that go? 10, 20, 45 an hour? Awesome. Was that good? Was that valuable, guys? All right. Okay, we're going to take a quick little bio break, let you guys look at your phones. Thank you all, by the way, for your attention. I saw very few heads down looking at phones during this. That means the world to me, and I know it'll mean the world to the rest of the speakers that we have. So 5-10 minute quick bio break. We'll come back in here, and then Connor's going to tell you how to take your authority to the next level by way of content. Thank you, guys.